Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Etheria Restart video. So in today's video, guys, we're following up from the prior video I did on SR lattices, and today we're doing the SSR lattices. Now, as most of you probably know, this is the most valuable resource in the game. It's something that truly unlocks, the potential of your characters. And whenever you want to prioritize these items, you have to take a couple things into consideration. Exactly what we talked about with the SRs if you saw that video. A lot of this is going to be account specific, right? It's going to depend on who you have and which teams are going to allow you, or which heroes are going to allow you to build a team that scales up the ladder that gets you either better shells or better modules. Because in the end, you're going to want to lattice all of your characters, but you want to try and find the ones that help your account progress by scaling up, that unlock things that you might not have been able to unlock early on, but because you were efficient with your lattices, it allowed you to get there. So one of the first things that you're going to look for in these characters is, does it reduce the cooldown? Do the lattices reduce your cooldown of very powerful skills? Eventually, as you get towards the end game, this will matter less because there's some crazy shells out there, which we'll mention as we're going through the characters. But the cooldown reduction can make or break the consistency of runs. So that is number one. The second thing that you're going to be looking for is, does it unlock a new type of ability on a character, or does it make something a little more consistent? So case in point with consistency, someone like Lily, if you skill up her skill 1 to level 5, whoever has Twin Trick on them will 100% follow up on an attack whenever Lily attacks. That is huge. Huge for consistency. It allows you to know that they're going to attack every single time. So that's a big one. Another one where it unlocks kind of a new skill is Shiata. So when Shiata's passive is leveled up to skill 5, she then adds crit damage on top of her evolutions instead of just attack. That is a crazy amount of power boost. So that's that. You also have to remember that as you're leveling these characters up, there's a lot of bonuses you get from the prowess. So you're not only just getting what the skill says with 3% crit rate here, attack boost up to 18, another 3%, and the crit damage added on like we just showed, but she's also getting defense, and she's also getting another 12% crit rate. So 12% crit rate with the other 6, that's awesome. That's 18% crit rate that you don't have to worry about on your Shiata now along the way. So damage dealers tend to benefit the most. I've said that before. Like if you look at her skill 3, she'll end up getting speed, 15 of it. And then here she gets a 15% attack boost if I skill this up. So damage dealers definitely benefit the most from this. They're usually stat hungry. They're looking for attack, speed, crit rate, crit damage, and then even sometimes, like Shiata, she needs a little bit of effect accuracy to make her full kit work, which is like stealing buffs and applying defense down. So the more stats that you get out of that prowess wheel along the way of your skill ups can really help you level up some characters. So those are the main things. Now, most of these characters truly benefit from their skill ups. That's obvious, but I think some benefit more so than others. So there's 24 characters right now at the making of this video, and I know we get 2 new characters tomorrow. I'll kind of talk about them whenever I see the skill kits, and we'll talk if the lattices are going to make a difference or not. But I've outlined a couple heroes here. Of the 24 that we have, I think I've got like 16 that truly benefit from the lattices. So first of all, Dokyoki, I don't think needs any lattices. All of her lattices are impactful for sure, and she's got some great abilities going on here. The issue with Dokyoki is all of her stuff is random. And whenever you're trying to scale up into the end game, you really need a fine-tuned team where everything is kind of speed-tuned. So she throws everything out of whack, and that can kind of make or break runs. So that's why she's not very used there. I think eventually, whenever your power level is so high, Doki Doki will come in to kind of speed things up because, you know, all of her buffs and things like that are amazing. It's just on the early stages, early on, you're really going to have everything fine-tuned to make sure that you're consistent in your clears, and she just doesn't really make that work. So Messiah is absolutely amazing. I think a lot of people have underrated this character because he's on a banner, and there's some other LDs that people really look to, but he can cheese a lot of content because he has this invincible on a static passive on his skill 1, wherever he defeats an enemy, he extends invincibility for a turn, or he puts it on if he didn't have it on. So that's kind of funny that you can cheese content with him, especially on the later stages where the bosses do a lot of damage. But the thing I want to talk about here is the skill 3 level 5 ability, where the defense ignore goes from 60 to 70. This might not seem big, but it is absolutely huge, because when this is at 70, you can pair him with the harvest matrices. And if you do that, his very first hit, or hits maybe the second hit as well on some bosses, if the target's HP is above 50%, he'll ignore an additional 30% of their defense. So if that is fully leveled up, he's ignoring 100% defense. This helps with a lot of different team compositions where you don't necessarily need to bring a debuffer then. You can just bring Messiah because he's ignoring 70% of defense, and if he has Harvest, he's ignoring the 30% on the first 2 hits, which might be enough. Now, if you're bringing a debuffer and he has the 70% defense ignore on his skill 3, he's ignoring 100% of defense all the time, which is also very powerful. But it does free up a slot for you from the debuff side if you have that skill leveled up. So that's something to think about. Now, Mio. Mio is a new character here, and I think a lot of people are underwhelmed with Mio, but if you skill up her skill 3 and her skill 2, she becomes quite good. The problem is she's very lattice hungry, because her percentages on her skill 3 and her skill 2 are actually so low that it doesn't feel like it's landing very much, which is why you need the lattices to scale this up to like a 40% freeze or a 50% steel turn meter effect with the 65% chance of doing it instead of like 45. It actually is a big deal. So I have a Mio, but I have not skilled her up yet, and I don't use her. But that skill 3 is extremely powerful. Stealing turn meter along with speed up is a huge skill. Not many characters in this game have speed up. I think there's only 4 that do it AoE. So do not sleep on this character. The problem is she is heavy investment. But once you do the investment, things get way better, and her skill 1 you don't really need to worry about. So Shadow Sonia. I know a lot of people are bummed out about the fact that Aurora got shadow nerfed, at least from the DOT side. She is still quite good in Terramaton for the DOT team. And I don't know what they're going to do with more content in the future, but it's a bummer that they did that, because that was kind of her specialty. Outside of that, she's kind of useless. So if they end up reverting that or making it maybe less powerful, if they tick DOTs down to like 3% or something, I don't know. She might end up being playable again. But the 2 things to mention here is her passive 1, extending the durations of dots to 2 turns. This is really important because it kind of plays in to her skill 2, which extends the dots even more. And the more dots you have whenever she ends up exploding is kind of important. Now, This skill being on a 3-turn cooldown, if you skill it up, is great. But at least in the final beta, the way that her skill priority worked was she would not use her explosion until the AI knew that it would kill. So what you can do, instead of utilizing this skill cooldown down to 3 turns, because you're going to be using Sonia in the endgame, is you can pair her with this crazy shell, which you'll also get in the endgame, Codex of Magic. This is a crazy skill, but whatever skill you end up using your first turn, it will then be back off skill cooldown. So if her DOT passive is skilled up to have it be 2 turns, she'll extend the buffs on her skill 2. Codex of Magic will proc. She'll then use her skill 2 again because it's off cooldown. It will extend again, and then her next turn around, she'll blow everything up. So that's kind of cool. Outside of that, I don't think you need to skill this up because by the time you're using her, a Codex of Magic will most likely be in your grasp. So the nice thing with her is the only thing you really need to skill up is her skill 1 to extend the dots to 2 turns, but you can wait until we see what happens, with the type of content that she's good in. So Heinrich is perfectly fine without any skill ups, but his skill ups do make him more consistent, and it does give some nice boosts to the last words, like unique debuff that he has by increasing the crit damage and stuff to stack up to 30%. This is big, and then also on his skill 1, increasing the chances of dispelling to 50%, and then increasing the duration of last words to 3 turns. Those are big things. They might not matter in the end game where you have just like cleave teams where you're killing within 1 or 2 turns. He probably doesn't need that, but he'll still need the percentage increase to 50%, again, to make things kind of more consistent. So when it comes to Lily, I've already talked about her skill 1. The chance to assist to 100% is a no-brainer. I think this is the first one that you do. The next thing is her skill 2 being on a 3-turn cooldown, and then you get a bunch of great things along the way, which is the turn meter of Twin Trick to the person that you put that on to boost by that, and then the crit damage for 3 turns is also huge. You want this on a 3-turn cooldown for sure. It's how you do a lot of speed runs, and you can also kind of cheese content with this with like Messiah. He will loop back around to his skill 3 a lot, and he will just nuke. You'll see, I don't know if you guys are in the global server or not, but one of the biggest whales, if not the biggest whale in this game right now, he uses Lily, Messiah, and Sonia to revive him if he dies. So he just like loops his turns, ignores defense, and then just keeps up his invincible like all the time. So he just cheeses content. It's pretty funny. So yeah, those 2 skills are quite important. So Celin's just gets like added additions to her stuff. She doesn't get really anything increased other than, some consistency, but I'm not super impressed with this character. I've heard that the character is better than she looks on paper. So if anyone has any kind of feedback on Celin's, certainly let me know. Romoka is the next one. So anyone who has Romoka will know how important this skill 3 skill up is because of the splash damage going from 33% and 100% if she kills a target. This is just absolutely nuts. It does crazy damage. If you look at any of the teams on a Health 4 for Doki Doki, Romoka is just on top of the leaderboards. And all of those Romokas have that skill 3 fully skilled up because the splash damage of 100% is a big deal. The nice thing is nothing else really needs leveled up on her. So she's a pretty cheap investment, and she is a specialist. She's going to be quite good early on for farming things. She's also like extremely fast in clearing investigation and the GP outpost stuff. So she does have value there. Now, Freya and Rahu, they're in the same vein where they're just already fantastic characters as is, and all the lattices do is just amplify what they do, but better. But the consistency margins are too small for me to really warrant them, having a lattice, at least for progression. Towards the end game, skilling these up whenever you have enough lattices or something. If that day ever comes, I don't know. But then Freya will be on the list. And then the same thing with Rahu. Like, starting with more stacks of Wrath is always good. Amplifying his damage is always good. These things are going to matter, like little ticks of damage along the way. But he's just already so good, same thing with Freya, that he does not need to be a priority for you, where if you have those other characters in your team, they should be the priority. So Lilith does get a big consistency boost with the 100% chance to inflict the stun. This is really big on her Graceful Mischief. This is a huge thing. And then on her skill 2, on level 5, pushing turn meter back 100% is like amazing. So this character truly benefits from lattices in both areas. That's a bit of a bummer because that's 10 lattices. But if I were to pick one, I think landing the Graceful Mischief is certainly the most important on the skill 3, but inflicting speed down on characters is awesome. I don't think you need the skill cooldown, to be honest, because she grants herself an extra turn on the skill 3, so this is already actually a 4-turn cooldown. But if you do get that to a 4-turn cooldown, it's essentially a 3. So, if you're like stuck in Dokyoki, because that's where I think she's absolutely amazing. Like, you don't have a Romoka, you don't have a Rosa or a Shiata or something, you can certainly take advantage of Lilith as a pretty good carry there, in my opinion. Klaus is another one where I don't think you really need to do anything. Both of her really good skills on her skill 2 and skill 3 are high cooldowns, but again, you can just use Codex of Magic with her to loop back around and do this again. So you'll put the defense down and speed down again, and then also 2 more stacks of hacking progress to eventually put this into hack in, which is just a lot of damage amp and damage reduction. So she doesn't need it, which is really awesome because she's a great character when you pull her, and she doesn't really take a whole lot of investment. So Shiata is certainly one that I recommend. She has unlocked Doki Hell 4 for me now, ever since I leveled this up. Getting crit damage on her buff, on her soul essence, is just absolutely insane. This is a crazy ability already, and to add even more value on top of it is nuts. And the 3 buffs requirement is not hard to do at all. Like, when I first read this prior to the final beta, and even after, because I didn't play her in the final beta, I was just like, 3 buffs, that takes too long to level up. It does not. Freya adds 2 buffs on her Dreamweave and defense up. Sukiomi, who's also a really great water hero that we'll talk about, gives attack up, speed up, so there's 2 buffs. You have another character like Valerian, who does her Hazy Dream, adding shield and a random buff. That's 2 buffs already. Like, it's quite easy to get this up to 3 evolutions. Now, her skill 3 does add some pretty good damage amp, and it does increase the percentage chance of inflicting the defense down to really add a little bit more value. But I think you have to pick and choose what kind of hero you want out of Shiata. She's either going to be a debuffer support DPS, or she's going to be your main DPS. I'm trying to do both right now, and it's not super consistent. So I think I actually kind of need to change that up. But yeah, the skill 2 passive unlocking is great. So Borgny. I say his name different every time I talk about this character. But same thing here. Just everything is kind of amplified, and he's more of a PvP character. In the early game, he's probably going to feel amazing, but he will fall off just because he can't crit. But I believe he will be one of the better characters later on in PvP, because the game, like the type of format that will reign supreme in Arena is eventually going to be like stall. So a hero like this being able to do damage just based on his attack, never critting, because there are heroes in the game like Viper that mitigate crit damage, damage. So when you have someone like Borgny, he's just doing a crazy high multiplier without any kind of crit damage, and then he also ignores passives that Viper has. So pretty cool, but he doesn't need it. Same thing with Tiamat. I think Tiamat is already crazy good as she is. This is just more amplification to what she does already. So endgame PvP players are probably going to skill her up just because every little bit matters at that point. But for someone who's, going through PvE and just doing PvP, casually, she doesn't need any kind of skill up. So Rosa is very similar to Shiata, where her passive really is needed to be skilled up. Like, you want this at 100%, granted to land, and the attack rate granted. There's no way around this. You need this skilled up. The other stuff is good. Reducing the cooldown of this, and then also the pushback. She's very lattice hungry, but the skill 2, the passive, is certainly the most important, and it does unlock a lot of things. So Ling Luo does not need anything, but I do want to mention that her passive is very, very good in the fact that it can purify a debuff. If you upgrade this skill, it goes to 75%, which is very good, but the more important thing, I think, is the 2-turn Whale Prayer instead of 1 turn, because this counts as a healing effect. So if this is up for 2 turns, whenever your heroes have debuffs, this will proc before it and has the ability to remove that debuff. So that is kind of a game changer for her, but she's just so good already, and all of the other characters just benefit way more than that. But I could see that being a big lattice boost to Ling Luo. All right. So Sukiomi, this is another character that I can't wait to play. I just recently pulled her. I'm really excited because she's another one of those characters that has AoE speed up, which is huge. But she also has a 100% turn meter when she's skilled up. You can reduce this to a 4-turn cooldown, which is quite important. And then she boosts her own turn meter by 35%. So she is like cranking out turns. You want to have her built with high defense as a support hero because that's where her damage comes in. But I think you want her fast above all. I think she is your speed lead. She's similar to like a Mio or a Lily, where you're using her for support and boosting turn meter and giving your damage dealer tons more turns, while also having some sub DPS. She also reduces skill cooldowns of all Animus along with the shells. And she does this silence, which can be good in Doki Doki. It's a form of crowd control, so it will take off the damage reduction on the Doki Doki minions. So don't sleep on Sukiomi. This character is really, really strong. So the skill 3 for sure. And then the skill 2, reducing the cooldown of this and increasing the silence is good. But in all honesty, I don't know if you need to skill this one up. This is kind of just a nice to have, but this is the most important one. The 35% turn meter boost to herself along with the 100% turn meter on your damage dealer is way better than like 80% or whatever it is. And then reducing that skill cooldown to 4 turns is going to be key. So Mia's another one where she's just fine as is. These cooldowns are a little too long, so I think if you just pair her with Codex and Magic, that will be good. You can run her as a speed lead, especially in the endgame, because she's a Dispeller, and a lot of the bosses have immunity on the endgame, so you can use her pushback turn meter, and then her next turn, she'll reduce all the cooldowns and heal everybody after they've kind of taken the first big hit. So she's already good as is, but yeah. Leon, again, like good character. She doesn't really need anything. They kind of nerfed turn meter pushback a little bit, so I think her overall utility has gone down since the final beta. Like, I was a pretty big fan of hers, but once I saw that, I reset her for Chloros, who we'll talk about. But she doesn't really need any skill ups. But this guy, man, I have been thoroughly impressed with this dude. One of the things that kind of gets overshadowed on Chloros is his base speed. He's extremely fast, which really helps with the later stages of Hell, because the bosses are so fast, and you will need some good speed in your characters, because if not, the bosses will end up looping you and they just do so much damage. So speed ends up being important. So that's kind of key. But from a Lattice standpoint, his main thing is this Doom Toll debuff. This also looks bad on paper, but once you use it, it's amazing, because a lot of people misread this. This says after the target takes damage 10 times. That does not mean like 10 turns from your units. What that means is hits. So if you like see on his skill 1, it says deals 2 hits. That takes 2 ticks off of the Doom Toll. That's big. He activates this a lot. His skill 3, once they take 10 ticks of damage, he follows up with his ult again. And what his ult does is it permanently increases its damage multiplier every time you use it. So not only is that really good, but on the level 5 of this skill, whenever a character dies with Doom Toll, now sometimes this doesn't matter in PvE, but sometimes it does. Like on Terramaton, right now, as I'm progressing, I'm killing the head on the left that does the defense down and really high damage. So this level will matter for me to go from Hell 3 to Hell 4, because when he kills someone that has Doom Toll on it, the Doom Toll then transfers, which is awesome. Without this, you need to use the skill 3 again to place the Doom Toll again, where if you unlock this, the Doom Toll automatically transfers, and then you start ticking the 10 damage thing again. So this is like a crazy boost. In my opinion, this is like a new ability for Chloros. So skill 3 is top priority. The other skills don't really need it. This chain lock is actually pretty good, but it also adds in a little bit of the difficulty of building him with a little bit of effect accuracy. However, the 100% chance is really nice. That goes really unnoticed in this game, I think, because of how the effect accuracy and effect resistance works. He lands this more often than you would think at that 100% chance clip. So, yeah, skill 3, certainly important. Veronica as well, she needs her skill 3 leveled up at least to here, where the spreading buffs is consistent of 100%. You never want this below that. Without that, she's completely useless. But I would say that it's nice that she only needs 2 lattices to make her, function how you want her to function. Outside of that, she doesn't really need anything else. Hell Kid, he's kind of like Tiamat. He's just great as is. It's just going to increase the amount of his shield. It will reduce the skill cooldown, which is important. But he already kind of extends it on his skill 2. So I don't really think this is needed, especially at the end game where the amount of turns is going to be a lot less. You might get back around to this one time. If you skill this down, it might be the way that you win, but you're going to have to identify that on your own. But the Shroud Barrier itself, I think, won't be needed twice if you have like a good healer or something with him. But he's good as, on his own. Now, Bientin is another one of those endgame characters that she'll need some skill ups to be consistent and really benefit from her skills. And she's the last one here. But the turn meter push for the Underworld Flower, whenever she revives someone, is very good. The 2 stacks is also very good. The 40% can make a difference whenever they're healed and revived. And the skill cooldown being 4 turns is also kind of quite important. So, yeah, the skill 3 is kind of key for consistency. And then this ability is also really, really strong, considering it revives somebody. You can do some cheeses, and you're reducing their skill cooldowns by 2 turns, aka Messiah. You know, Messiah's skill 3, where he has invincible. Yeah, that's on a that's on a 3-turn cooldown. So you reduce it by 2, and then he can follow up and do it. So yeah, guys, that's the list. Like I said, I mentioned 16 of them. Bientin, Chloros, Veronica, Sukiomi, Rosa, Shiata, Lilith, Romoka, Lily, Heinrich, Mio, and Messiah. Those are my picks. If you guys have your opinion on who benefits the most, let me know down below. But as always, I appreciate you watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the next one. See ya.